Hello, good morning everyone. Today we are going to review how to create support and resistance levels of any market using the tools available on any platform. On this example we are going to use Ninjatrader 7. The tools that we are going to use are mainly the horizontal line that we use to show any group of pivots that are touched several times on the chart. For example, these high pivots are also touched by this low pivot. Any pivot touched 2 or more times must be taken into consideration. Another tool are the extensions. When we have a wave in progress like this move, then we can calculate the projection of the next wave using extensions. For that we use these tools. We select the minimum, the maximum, and the values for the extension. I currently use only two: the 1-to-1 or 100% and the 138 or 138%. We locate the extension on the new wave start. If we have these settings on the drawing tools, where we snap to price, then we can make the location of the tools easier, because only valid prices are allowed, and if it is the minimum on the chart, then we cannot exceed that minimum. So if we make the place where we want to place the low is the low of the chart, then it is easier to locate the pivot. On this example we have a superposition of two levels, the 1-to-1 extension and this high and low pivots confluence. When we have a confluence of two or more conditions, this is another level to be taken into account. And the other tool is the retracement. When we are starting a move, we expect a retracement to the initial place, so we use this tool. From the start of the move, we could also take into account the historical high on 130 area. So we can calculate a retracement from the highs. I will add the 38.2 . And this 38 overlaps with this series of high and low pivots. So this is another level to take into account. On the extensions, I usually use the 1-to-1 and the 138. For the retracements, I mostly use the 50, 786 and 61.8. Sometimes I also add the 38.2. Now we can go to a faster time frame, and now the first that we can see is that after the low, market is going to the upside, so we can calculate also a projection to the upside. If we have some kind of retracement, we must take into account the two previous lows. First, this one, so we calculate retracement from this low pivot, and then this other one. And what we look is superposition of several conditions. When we have a superposition, this is a level to be taken into account. On this example, we have an overlap of the 786 with this low pivot. Here we have a 786 overlapping a 61.8, and on this pivot we have a 61 with a 50. So if the market keeps going to the downside, the first level to take a look is the 50% retracement. Maybe we have a low pivot also to add more strength. This low pivot with also these high pivots. So now we have two conditions overlapping. The following zone could be this overlap of 50 and 61.8. Let's see if we have a pivot. We have a high pivot here and several low pivots here. And finally, we can mark all this area with 3 fibs. A 50 with a 61.8 and a 786. We also have some pivots. This low pivot with this high pivot. We must also be take into account the fresh pivots, because the rollover, each rollover add more error to the price. To the upside, we have this confluence from the higher time frame. We can take also into account the retracement from the high, because all current retracement are from the low. But as we approach to the high, we must also take into account those retracement. So let's paint a retracement from the high. We have several overlaps also. Some of them have already worked, like this 61.8, the 50. All of them had already some bones this 786 was the current high, and finally we should take into account the levels for day trading, because this is on a very high time frame basis. This is only 2 days. So let's draw a few more lines, and then we can decrease the time frame. Between these two zones we should take into account this pivot. We have an overlap of this high pivot with this another high pivot and several other low pivots. And now we can go to a faster time frame. Let's see what's going on these last days. We have a downtrend approaching a support level, and it looks like we have a wave, a down wave, retracement, another down wave, and this may be smaller than a retracement. Let's see if it is at least a 1-to-1. This is too small to be taken into account as a retracement. So we can consider this first way to the downside and the projection to the downside from this high pivot. So we paint an extension from this high pivot to this low pivot, and then from this high pivot. The first support level and the 1.38 extension overlapping on a higher time frame horizontal line. So here we have local zones, local support zones. So these are the two levels, the two support levels to take into account the next week. To the upside, we have this confluence of high and low pivots. And now we can expect a retracement from the high pivot. Let's paint a retracement. We have a 50. The 61.8 is overlapping several high and low pivots. We can add a horizontal line. This is a local level. And the 786 overlapping this high pivot. And now we can go to a faster time frame. The chart that we use to trade, let's say for example a range 9 or Unirenko chart. So now the number of visible levels on a day are much lower because those high time frame levels are only touched one or maybe two times per day. If we now add some signals, let's say we add a reversal, now we know which are the best signals to take. If we are near a resistance, it is much better to take the shorts than the longs. And if we are approaching a support, these long signals have less useful than the short signals coming from the top. So all these short signals are much better ranked than the long. Now that we are touching the low support, then it is much better to enter on the long signals than the shorts. We have a gap here starting now this Sunday. This is part of today, Sunday, and it looks that we have a gap on the open, and it looks like we are below support. This is the Friday close. This is today, Sunday. So we can see this Monday how it looks. Maybe we are trading this lower zone. Hope this has been useful for you, and if you have any question, please post below this video. Thank you everyone, bye bye.